percent in favor of keeping the Redskins the same, so that's my update. And by the way, I represent the Native American Guardians Association, which represents the tribes that are they're proud to be associated with the Redskins. And in fact, you would learn a lot if you actually went out to Indian reservations and talked to people, as opposed to just assuming that you know, some folks speak on their behalf.
So what about Lee High School? And Lee Highway?
Washington Lee has already been done.
Well, I want to explain something. I went to Jeff Stewart, and I opposed them changing the name because the cost was too much. And Jeff Stewart serves a very, an area, Lake Barcroft, they have a lot of money, but they also served an underprivileged area. And those kids are not going to have access. People, because one of my people that I went to high school with was trying to raise $1 million.
So this is a town hall for our elected officials,
I get it,
so I think we should hear from the people
was ridiculous.
that we have elected.
I get it.
All right,
The cost
listen,
is ridiculous.
you've asked a question, and obviously you asked it of me, and that's fine.
I would like to know from Delegate Bulova too, actually.
Okay, I've answered you about the Redskins. As far as the issue of Confederate names, I wrote a letter basically stating a position that, you know, Jeff Stewart was a part of the history of this state. Good, bad, okay? And by the way, we have all sorts of folks that have history, heritage in the state. I hold a seat that my great-grandfather held. And you can, by the way, I hope I'm on video. Are you videoing?
You are on video, yes.
Okay. And, you know, he was the youngest of 5 brothers. 4 of them fought in the Civil War. They all 4 passed. He was the 5th, and he served in the state senate. And this is a generation that named a lot of these, built monuments and named things, and, you know, we can look at them and say we're better people than that. And I get that, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation. But I just say, you know, step back. Let's step back, and people want to rename every highway. There's a lot of history here. And listen, I was excited when they put the Arthur Ashe Monument on Monument Avenue. Hopefully one day they'll put a Douglas Wilder statue on Monument Avenue. But you know what? To me, I take the broad perspective that we live in a very judgmental generation. And, you know, we want to make decisions about good, bad. Let's let people look at the whole history. And if the community wants to change Jeff Stewart High School, that's fine. If the community wants to change Lee High School, you know, have at it. But to me, I think to come in and say, if you oppose this change, you're a racist, you know what? I'll tell you what, from those of us that have lived in this community and have fought this community, both on the civil rights side, and ironically, some of the same families that fought in the Civil War fought for civil rights. I know that because that's my mother's family. And so I just say, take a broad perspective before you start pointing fingers at people. That's all I'm saying.
And I don't want to belabor the point. What I'll just go ahead and say is that history can be very complicated. One of the things that I admired about Robert E. Lee after the war was that I think he would be the last person who would want monuments named after him. In fact, I think he actually said that. And so, you know, his purpose was to be able to bring the community together. I know that there are good arguments on both sides, but inherently that's a local issue that is best handled at the school board, city council, or a county board of supervisors, and that's where that discussion ought to be held. And that's the best
they went after, they did not go with the name that people in that community.
Your mom's the chair.
I'm
You know what, ma'am?
telling you,
You've had your chance to
the
speak.
people in that community voted, and the school board went against what the people voted for at that school, so.
All right. Tell you what, let's get the question here.
Thank you.
Yes.
It falls in line with the other, but I'm not going to get into a discussion on this. Was there some discussion of the Ralph Northam situation earlier, and was there a sense of the group taken as to how this should be handled? Were opinions elicited?
You know what? It's funny. I was leaving Richmond yesterday when my political director texted me about it. And I don't want to say I violated the hands-free law. The question was, what did we do about when did we learn about the Ralph Northam situation? Let me just say a moment about Ralph Northam, because I understand that the publicity and the PR. I had a case years ago where I was representing a child, an African-American family on the Eastern Shore of Virginia, and I needed to have a medical diagnosis done of this child after a traumatic brain injury. Family was on Medicaid, couldn't afford it. Ralph did it for free. And I used that report to help them get a settlement and put some money in that child's future. And so I say that just to kind of balance out what's going on right now. We learned about this yesterday afternoon. We had already left the Capitol. We were already heading back home. Our caucus had a conference call at about 9:30 at night. I was actually out to dinner with my family. I listened in. Our caucus made a decision to ask the governor to step down. I listened. To be honest, by the time they had reached a decision, I woke up at midnight. My political director texted me. My wife had to wake me up. And so I found out about it at that point. I'm still processing this whole thing. But the bottom line is that was basically, we did
I
come
happen to think that Ralph Northam's situation, for all